Okay. I know that Urban Meyer is taking a lot of heat right now due to the fact that the Netflix documentary following the 2008 Florida Gators Swamp Kings was an absolute Urban Meyer simp show. But through watching this documentary, as well as doing some more research, I began to realize just how sucky of an individual Urban Meyer really is. Let me get something very straight. When I was a kid, I didn't love Urban Meyer, but that was only due to the fact that I didn't like Ohio State. See, when I started watching college football, the Florida dynasty was kind of over, so it was a little past my time, and I never knew what went on around the mid-2000s Gator squads. But I think that's a really good place to start, because honestly, it was kind of like the beginning of the end. Even though that was the time that Meyer had his greatest success, it is also where the most problems, you could say, happened. Now, let me just say that I know that these teams were amazing. 2 natties in the time span of Urban Meyer's time at Florida, that's incredible. I'm not going to take anything away from these rosters, but what went on behind the scenes at the University of Florida, it was like the local zoo. Drugs, fights, arrests, the lack of respect towards players from coaches, and honestly, just the lack of class from Urban Meyer says enough. Now, I know what some people will say, well, football is not about class. Winning should be everything. But when it comes to the law, that's when I have a problem. See, Urban Meyer's Florida teams had 41 players who were arrested at some point, including Aaron Hernandez, the Pouncey twins, Percy Harvin choking out his wide receivers coach at Florida. It was a disaster. And then we get to the arrest of graduate assistant Zach Smith for domestic abuse, which Urban Meyer allegedly sent a Florida staff member to tell Smith's wife to just drop the charges altogether. Then, following a poor showing from the Gators in 2010, Meyer would retire due to some health issues. But then, he would make a miraculous return to college football in 2012 to join the Ohio State Buckeyes, where he would hire Zach Smith as his wide receivers coach. These Ohio State squads were really good, winning a national championship in 2014, but the shenanigans would continue for Meyer, as in 2015, Zach Smith would once again be charged for domestic abuse on his wife. This time, Smith's wife would go to Urban Meyer's wife and say that these allegations were 100% true. So Meyer knew all about the abuse going on, and it was only after bad press that Meyer would fire Smith in 2018. Then, it came out publicly that Meyer knew all about the abuse and that he mishandled these allegations, which caused him to be suspended for the first 3 games in 2018, which is what would lead to another retirement of Urban Meyer. He would coach the 2019 Rose Bowl, then he would head out, presumably for good, but after 2 years of staying low, you could say, Meyer got a promotion. He became the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had a pretty solid young core for Meyer to work with, including Clemson star Trevor Lawrence. But here, Meyer treated his players like dog water once again, but this time it would backfire, as you're talking about a whole different level. At college, it's more acceptable to quote-unquote disrespect these players because they're 18, 19-year-old kids and they'll just listen to you. While I'm not saying it's okay for you to disrespect your players at any level, it's, I guess, accepted by players a little more because they're like, well, coach knows best. But at the NFL, these guys are grown men. They're not going to take disrespect. They'll push back. They don't care. So it was off to a rocky start in Jacksonville. Then in July of 2021, Meyer was fined $100,000 for violating the NFL CBA rules. This guy is the definition of a living douchebag. He brought back Tim Tebow as a publicity stunt after years of not playing any NFL football, just to cut him after the preseason, realizing, oh crap, this guy sucks. The season starts and it's a complete disaster. The team is awful. Meyer is calling assistants losers, saying that he was a winner and that he had better assistants at Bowling Green, which was his first college head coach job. He continued to infuriate players. He completely mishandled Trevor Lawrence's rookie year, so bad that people started saying that he's a bust, not even knowing what players were getting snaps at practice. Then, of course, was the famous incident of Urban Meyer getting grinded on at some Columbus club by some young woman who was not his wife. A few more months of disastrous play from the Jaguars, then the famous kicking incident in December. Former kicker of the Jaguars, Josh Lambo, came out and said that Urban Meyer approached him and kicked him in the leg while Lambo was stretching for a practice. What kind of logic did Meyer have here? Like, oh yeah, that'll show him. That'll teach him a lesson. I'm gonna kick him in the leg. Like, what? All this led to the firing of Urban Meyer after just 13 games as the head coach of the Jaguars. Then, following the season, the Jaguars would hire Doug Peterson, a true proven NFL winner who is a fantastic individual who is quite possibly the opposite of Urban Meyer when it comes to the level of human being. Today, Urban Meyer is a Fox Sports analyst, and honestly, I just hate to hear the guy's voice. I absolutely despise Urban Meyer, and I wish he would become completely irrelevant because Urban Meyer sucks.